I'm live on Facebook. Hey, I'm live all over the place. My name is Kerry Mussington, and today I want to bring you some awareness around about addiction. And what was the triggering factor for me was a plea of somebody showing their disgruntlement for what they were going through. In the background, there is a picture of myself and three other ladies that had the pleasure of telling our story and appearing in the Sun national newspaper. That was amazing, and something that hasn't really been discussed quite frequently. And am I proud of it? I kind of got embarrassed about the title of it, so I'm going to show you. So the title of it, so this is the, no, not going to work. I kind of got, you can Google it yourself. The title of it was Addicted to Sleeping Tablets. And am I ashamed of that? Not if you knew the story behind it. You see, people are using medication as a coping strategy. Go to the doctor. Where did we learn that from? Who guided you to the GPs? Who guided you to go and get fixed in that way? And this is a very serious conversation, because the message that was on Facebook today was, I am not in the right place. And you could see the distress on the individual. So I reached out. The fact of reaching out, we got an answer and a reply back, because even though I made a telephone call to see if I could do anything to help and just to stop that thought process, and they won't answer. And this is a classic example when people have a complaint about something, or something is disturbing them. They won't answer the phone. They won't accept a solution. They won't accept something that perhaps they might have to implement to change so they could feel better. The reply that I got back was, I've just popped a pill. It's okay. I've just taken medication. And the medication that they're taking is medication that I've had also in my life, given to me when I was unwell. And the medication is all too well an antidepressant, and it begins with D. All right, I can't remember the name of it. But just pop a pill and you'll feel better. Then tomorrow pop another pill and you'll feel better. And that's the issue that I have around this medication, that when the willingness to change the outcome has to come from the individual. Popping a pill is not going to change the outcome to your problem or your thought process. It doesn't. Now, the reason why I made the paper with that story is I was a victim of crime, and I was in a B&B. And the fact that I was in a B&B without the B, so there was no breakfast, it was just a room, and I felt like a prison. Okay, leaky water coming in the room, hanging my laundry on a radiator, just and suffering greatly, whilst the perpetrators were comfortable in their bed. So I was the one that had to go through change and instability and something different, and fight for my life, and fight for, hey, can you hear me? I just want peace. And because my life was dramatic, I sought the doctor once again. And I sought the doctor, and I was upset because they tell you, particularly with the diagnoses, and I'm going to go on my own diagnosis, which is borderline, EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder. Don't freeze on that word. Don't get scared. It doesn't mean I'm a mess. Okay? It meant at one point that I'm very sensitive, and the emotions would be rot. And in that fact that the emotions would be rot, then I would take a coping strategy. And more than likely it was a very unhealthy coping strategy. So my point to this is, when you know the problem and the reason for your depression, taking a tablet is not going to cure it, is it? It isn't. So it then leads me into talking about this medication, because people talk about addiction as if it's something like cocaine, heroin, alcohol, and that's the only thing there is. No. Your medication, and this is my medication that I was once on. Everybody would know what that is if you could see it. No, you can't see it, can you? It was Sirtraline. I've had Zopiclone, I've had, Zopiclone is, again, not really good because it leaves you and not functional. I've had tablets, and I realised that I was taking these tablets for years, but yet when I read about my diagnosis, it said no cure. So why am I taking these? And I do believe there is a cure, and that is the mind over matter, hence why we called the project Mind Over Matter. But these here, if you knew the side effects, would you continue to take them? When you are not facing a forward-thinking process, we can say what happened in our past, we can say we're a victim of this and a victim of that, but when are we going to be a survivor? We're barely functioning on medication. Barely. It limits you even if you're having medication. Think, should you be driving? Now, therefore, you put limitations on you because you're taking medication to try and get rid of the depression. And yet the medication says you can't drive. Oh dear. Stopping you from going forward now, isn't it? Stopping you from going forward. So I'm going to call and say, I'm going to say it very bold and very proud, that I believe that once I was addicted to the remedies that the GPs would offer, I was addicted to them, thinking if I popped a pill, it would give me the answers to all my problems and the problems would go away. No, what it done to me was destroy my state of mind even more. What it also done on particular medication was make me feel suicidal even more than just the depression. And then they mess about with that. Well, maybe you ain't getting on with that one. Try this one and try that one. You are a human guinea pig. To fixing trying to find a solution to fix your problem. You think it's in the answer of a box? No, it's not. Now I'm going to read out this, which you should always read, the pros and the cons and the do's and don'ts with medication, and take the advice of your GP that says read the advice. Know your body, know your mind. But you still, like I said, you're going for an answer. I went to the GP. Hey, give me something to take away this pain. I feel really depressed. How was this going to change the circumstances for me? What I was living in, how I was living, how I was being treated, how I wasn't even being listened to. This wasn't going to change me, was it? This wasn't going to change my outcome. This wasn't going to help. It's just, what was going to help is to the system to, hey, get it documented. Then they'll believe you, because the system relies on paperwork. And sometimes people will go and get these medications. They don't really want them, but they just want the evidence. And getting the evidence is still a cry for help. It's saying, please listen to me, I have a problem and I need it resolved. I need help to get this chip off my shoulder and this chip on this shoulder, or that chip off my shoulder. This is what's going on in my life. This is what's affecting me in my life. But some people don't know how to seek the change. So when I put that hand out today and they wouldn't take it and they popped a pill, I literally thought to myself, I'm going to have to come and talk about this. But I'm also going to have to come and talk about the side effects of your tablets, particularly sertraline for starters. Okay, the one thing that doesn't cure your problem, just masks your problem. Sertraline. The following side effects were seen in clinical trials. Guinea pig. Your GP is a general practitioner, practices medicine. Isn't it funny that when you have a mental health problem, that they will then put you on to a secondary mental health care to get that psychiatric assessment and evaluation? Unfortunately, some people don't get to that stage, so therefore they're unable to muster out their problems or talk about their problems. So therefore they just are happy just to keep going back to the GP and taking their prescription drugs. Now, are you addicted to that? Do you feel that that drug that you are taking is actually curing your problems? Is changing the outcome to your problems? Is it? Because I know that it didn't for me, and I had to think differently and apply action differently and visualize differently. You see, there's three important things: thoughts, visions, actions. And when we talk about visions, you know, when I say don't promote the method of how you try to hurt yourself, on this occasion, I'm putting out a message here is not to do this, not to take medication to resolve a problem. Either it's a housing problem, you have a housing problem, to self-medicate in the way where it's harming you and you're not using it sensibly, and you're saying, yeah, well, because I remember the telephone calls when well, just about, because I was so bogged out of my head on this medication called Zobiclone. Taking the telephone call, I barely remember it. So thank God that I have a recorded app. So then when I was able to get myself out of that state of mind, I was able to play back the telephone call that I made to the GP. The telephone call that I made to the GP, and we're talking about years ago, not present mind. Look great, feel great today. So we're talking about years ago. I called the GP. I had the telephone calls to remind me. These telephone calls and these recordings was to remind me of my growth, to remind me that I stood in my truth. And so these telephone calls that I made, I said to the doctor then writes up, you see, well, I spoke to her. She was quite drowsy and she was not really making any sense. What do you expect? You prescribed me some medication. Now I'm not functional. I'm just masking the problem. But yet I phoned you up to say, please help me out with this situation. No one's listening. And so I took an alternative measure to what I call is in your dark space. The alternative measure was to just hibernate, get under the duvet. So that's what that story is about, getting under the duvet and not facing the world, not applying action to my life. I was giving up. I was slowly dwindling away out of that situation. Although I had people on my side, they would guide me. But they were limited. You see, we can take a guide. Even now, my voice, my words might resonate to you. That's a little bit of a guide. It's what you call a spiritual guide, coming through your internet as a virtual world. But as spiritual, I'm coming to you, saying to you, these are the past. How are you going to get to your future? Side effects. Taking medication. Now, it varies. And you could have been on this for a very, very long time. Therefore, if you've been on these medications for a very, very long time, and you haven't taken alternative measures to therapy, then ask yourself, are you addicted to that medication? Because I feel it's not much of a difference to, you talk about, is it pain management? That's not pain management. That isn't pain management. We're not talking about where your limbs are sore or you've got a bad back and you've got to take medication for that, or taking the odd ibuprofen or something like that. You've got some kind of you need to take an anti-inflammatory. We're not talking about that. We're talking about these long-term disabilities and illnesses, the disabilities of the mental health. That's what I'm talking about. When are you going to see change? Because this is what this does to you. Common and may affect up to 1 in 10 people. Well, we already know that 1 in 4 people suffer from depression. So let's dwindle that down to a smaller circle then. Insomnia, dizziness, sleepiness, headache, diarrhea, feeling sick, dry mouth, ejaculation, failure, and fatigue. That's one. I'm going to get down to the common side effects. May affect up to 1 in 10 people also. And as I said, 1 in 4 people suffer from depression. So if 1 in 4 people are suffering from depression, that's a lot of people on medication. So it goes on to say, sore throat, anorexia. If you have an eating disorder, and I've had one of those, okay, bulimia. If you want to know what the differences are, well, perhaps don't go into it. Let's just see if we can find a different solution to those problems. Because if you've got an eating disorder, and this is a suppressant of your appetite, because it can increase your appetite, but it can also suppress your appetite. This is why it's important to be open and honest to what the problems you are faced with your own self when talking to somebody that's trying to help you. This is again. It also says that it common and may affect up to. It causes depression, feeling strange, nightmares, anxiety. That's fear. Agitation, numbness, and tingling, shaking, muscle tense, abnormal taste, lack of attention, visual disturbance, ringing in ears, palpitation, hot flushes, yawning, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation, upset stomach, gas, rash, increased sweating, muscle pain, erectile dysfunction, chest pain, joint pain. Uncommon side effects: chest cold, runny nose, hypersensitivity, low thyroid or hormones, hallucination, feeling too happy. Get that? Feeling too happy. Because in the previous statement, it says depression. So if we give you a tablet, then we can create that bogged down, dysfunctional feeling. It says uncommon and may affect up to 1 in 100 people. We can go on and talk about these problems here with medication: convulsions, involuntary muscular contractions, abnormal coordination, moving a lot, amnesia, discrete amnesia, forgetfulness. Don't we get that when we're depressed anyway? Decreased feelings, speech disorder, dizziness while standing up, passing out, migraines, enlarged pupils, ear pain, fast heartbeat, high blood pressure, flushing, breathing difficulties, possible wheezing, shortness of breath, nosebleeds, inflammation of the, can't say the word, so I won't even say it, won't even attempt it, difficulty swallowing, hemorrhoids, wow, pharmagels they call them, increased saliva, tongue disorder, burping, eye swelling, purple spots, skin, face, edema, hair loss, cold sweat, dry skin, hives, itching, osteoarthritis, muscular weakness, back pain, muscular twitching, nightmare, urination, unable to urinate, increase in urination, increase in frequency of urination, problem urination incontinence, sexual dysfunction, female sexual dysfunction, menstrual irregularities, swelling in legs, chills, fever, weaknesses, thirst, increase in liver, enzyme levels, weight decreased, weight increased. Rare, intestine problems, ear infections, cancer, swollen glands, high cholesterol, low blood sugar. Physical symptoms due to stress or emotional drug dependence, psychotic disorder, paranoia, suicidal thoughts, sleepwalking, premature ejaculations. Rare, but it's kind of contradictory in this package, because it says rare, but then if you go to possible, look at the possible side effects and ask yourself, is it actually happening to you? Like all medication, this medication can cause side effects, although not everybody gets them. Nausea is the most common side effect, and the effects depends on the dose and often disappears and lessens with continuing treatment. Tell your doctor immediately if you're experiencing any of the following symptoms. Taking this medication, these symptoms can be serious. Common, may affect 1 in 10 people. If you have manic episodes, see section 2, warnings and precautions. Oh, manic. Now, with depression and chronic depression, with those borderlines and, with those personality disorders and the bipolars and things like that, you really are going to be going up and down. But particularly manic and panic, let's say section 2. Section 2, let's go to section 2. And that is what I just said, what you need to know before taking this medication, sertraline. Do not take sertraline. If you're allergic to sertraline, you won't know, will you? Warnings and precautions. This is the section 2 that they want you to read. And see, many people will not read the instructions. They will simply just pop a pill and hope that everything is going to be better tomorrow. And they spend the majority of their time floating, being stung themselves, by the way, because they're oblivious to being. To open your mind without the medication preps you, yes, for the unknown, yes, but you can foresee what's coming rather than being oblivious to it. I'm not against medication. I'm not for constant medication without trying something different, a different approach. Rather than just pop a pill, I talk about taking therapy, singing, music, art, dancing, meeting new people, getting involved in activities, getting involved with telling your story, get involved with volunteering and doing something else, because the warnings and precautions of talk to your doctor and pharmacist before taking this medication. If you have epilepsy, fits, seizures, if you suffer from manic depressive illness, bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, if you have manic episodes, contact your doctor immediately. As I said, some medications can make you worse. If you are having had thoughts of harming or killing yourself, see below, thoughts of suicide worsening or your depression or anxiety. I'm going to forget to that. If you have Sirtraline syndrome, if you have Sirtraline syndrome, in rare cases, this is a syndrome may occur when you're taking certain medication. Sometimes this is sertraline symptoms. I have to look at that possible side effects again. If you have low sodium level in your blood, you see people take all the medication, but they don't actually look at the other problems that are occurring within their body, do they? They don't. So they'll take more medication on top of those medications, knowing that could be that one medication that you're taking is creating all the rest of the problems. Because you're wiping down your immune system, aren't you? You're pulling it down. You're making it rely on something. And sometimes this is why they change medication later on, because you are getting immune to it. So it's not doing a good enough job for you. And you see, look at that statement there. The medication isn't doing a good enough job for you. And I'm pretty much talking about the antidepressants. And so when they change it and they increase it, here you go. You're going to go into this, I've got no energy, I've got no drive, I've got nothing. Withdrawals. I know those withdrawals. Sorry, I can feel it in my head when I'm talking about it. Withdrawals from these kind of medications were actually worse than probably being on alcohol sometimes, of needing that drink or something. The withdrawals were crazy. It was like, you ever been in a moving car? Got the window open a little bit, but you can hear going, shum, shum, shum. And that, you turn around and find out where the noise is coming from. That was what's going on when you're having the withdrawals, and you're going like that, and you're buzzing, and you're going like that, and it's absolutely disgusting. And I was popping a tablet for domestic violence. I was also popping a tablet because I never told my mother that, or my parents, that I was going through what I was going through and hiding the secret about the abuse. So, when I actually did, when I used to cry, because I suffered from migraines when I was very, very young, a lot. And perhaps I was stressed out of having to keep dirty little bloody secrets, and from those non-relatives. And I think I never told my mother. Obviously, you don't recognise, do you? You don't know what to say. You just don't know what to do. And I think when I used to cry a lot, my mum would literally offer me a spliff. I'm telling you now. She would say, "Here, take some of this. This would make you feel better." And I was so anti-drugs. And I said to my mum, "No, I've seen what it does to you. You never got any money to give me even a toy. You've never got any money to do anything nice for yourself or buy yourself any nice clothes or anything like that." And I realised what my mum was doing. Because when I look at my mum now, what I know is that she had manic depressive. She was a manic depressive. But the name for that is bipolar break. They don't tell you that though, do they? I don't actually remember listening to my mum saying she heard voices. Psychotic episodes? Perhaps my mother did have psychotic episodes because she was drinking heavily on top. And I remember literally having to look at my mum's going in her kitchen, and she used to have this little plastic tray, and it was full of medication, full of different kinds of medication. Even this name, diazepam, is the biggest one. Diazepam, they used to make money off these bloody things back in the day. My mum used to always hear my mum selling medication, giving it to somebody else so they could get addicted, right? Or maybe the person was addicted and give it to my mother, and my mum got addicted, and vice versa. There became a trade-off. And you shouldn't give people your medication. That's a no-no. Don't ever give people your medication, even if they say, "Oh, I take that same one." Sorry, don't believe that. Not necessarily. I'm just saying, if you think you're going to exchange a medication, don't do that, because it's just word of mouth. Let them go back to their GP. Let them talk to their GP about their medications. In fact, you talk to your GP about your medications, because medications is not going to always be the answer if you're just dealing with depression and those labels. We're not talking about the body pain. We're talking about the mental health. So it's, let me look at the box. When was this? 2017, and 100 mil, and it was never good enough, so they increased it on top of the other medication. And that's because I wasn't asking my depression. I was telling them I was depressed, but I didn't tell them what for. The doctors are not there to hear and reel off your life. "Well, I'm depressed." Hold on a minute. If I sat in the doctor's surgery, I'd be taking up a few hours left before they give me a prescription of medication. And I think this is the way where it goes a little bit wrong, where for ourselves, we've been guided to go to the doctor. They have the answer. No, the answer's within you. They'll just give you something to pacify the situation, to take the ease, take the edge off the situation, the edge off. But you're still in the situation. And unless you put one foot in front of the other to change it, then the outcome is the same. Medication, medication, medication. Smoke, smoke, smoke. Alcohol, alcohol. Drugs, drugs, drugs. So, are you self-harming? I think, believe me, going to the GP, or I used to do that all the time. I think going to the GP, I believe I was definitely self-harming into thinking that the doctor could give me this. I was addicted to this, thinking it was the answer, and it wasn't. The answer was here. The answer was in education. The answer was applying action. And the things that I was thinking, the things that I was visualizing was all negative energy. I was thinking the worst of my situations, and I thought I'd never get out of them. So I masked them by taking medication. But in the background, I tried to apply action, but I tried to get some help and I get some support through it. But what I needed was a voice, somebody else, because my voice wasn't strong enough, because I was too bogged down in medication. And I got so angry one time, as you do, and you crumble. And this is where life is taken to medication. If you are, and I'm actually going to tell you, and I have to be honest here. This one show here, I have to be honest with you. When I had these lying around, I was tempted in my state of depression. And this then, I didn't realize the tragedy that I'd leave behind with my loved ones, and how I too, with the action that I tried to take, would affect my loved ones, then creating them depression. And then they go to the GP and the cycle begins all over again. And I learned this, that one small step for a problem was to go to the GP. That's what we've learned. That's what's been enforced in us. But now what we know is that we have got technology around us, and people are tuning into different people's ways and words and workshops. And the fact that there is that technology, people are providing you with a holistic approach of healing. My words are, for starters, I'm going to ask you to apply action. That's not taking a tablet. That's saying, come on, what's tomorrow look like? What does Tuesday look like? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What does your week look like? And then what's the following week like? What did you do in this week that you enjoyed that you're going to apply again next week? And some people can't find the enjoyment in life. They limit themselves. I had a phone call. I'm always having phone calls. I'm always having chats. But when I hear people saying, I can't do anything yet, I'll just wait for that situation to be resolved, and then I can get my health back, and then I can start. No, because you don't know how long you've got. You start today, applying action today, and you start making changes today. If your friends are inviting you to go on a Zoom or go to a workshop, take it. Take it. Oh my God, take the camera off. You can still listen. Listen to tools that are helping you with your health and well-being. I'm always putting out, just guys, do you want to get involved? Do you want to do something to help somebody else? Do you want to give back? Because the problem that we have with people stuck in depression is they don't have any motivation because they don't know what to do. They're not involved in anything. They haven't got nothing to wake up for in the morning apart from what I used to do every single morning without fail. I used to get up in the morning. This was my daily routine. Get up in the morning. Bearing in mind, I probably had a few hours sleep, but I wasn't going to miss a show. I was not going to miss Jeremy Kyle. I don't care who ridicules Jeremy Kyle. What he done was highlighted problems in the community. And no different to what people are doing now with technology, highlighting problems on social media. And these problems need to be addressed, for the behaviour is affecting individuals. And we're talking about human to human. Human to human is the ones that are causing it. You know? Why have you got a bad day today? Are you feeling poorly? Are you even thinking that you're a bad mother? These are all the things that I used to think. I'm a bad mum. I can't do this. I'm getting, somebody's expectations, until I put my foot down I wanted to know what my expectations was. Why was I limiting my happiness? Why was I preventing myself from even being loved? Fear. And fear is, and it makes me laugh when people say to me, well, I ain't laughing, but when people say to me, I suffer from anxiety. First thing I say to them, what are you fearing then, love? What are you afraid of? What's the issue? Because the anxiety, yeah, that's one word. Then you create panic because of the unknown. And then you have the panic attack because you can't get a grip of your breathing, which then escalates the panic even more. And then you go, and then, sorry. And then when your breathing is getting faster and faster and faster, it's racing your heart even more. And when it's racing your heart even more, you then become to get agitated even more because you don't know how to bring that down and bring that panic down. You don't know what to do. So you're getting frustrated, mentally frustrated in your head. I can feel it when I'm talking about it because I've lived it. And then that mentally frustration leads to something else. And it's that point of that something else, because you're probably crying profusely, struggling to breathe, throat all seizing up, hot and clammy, sweating. It's quite emotional talking to you about it because I'm actually feeling it of where I was when I'm describing it. I'm describing it, and I can actually point back the last time I had a panic attack, a severe one, anxiety and panic. I called the crisis line, and I got pissed off with them even more. What can I do? There was no empathy in those bloody calls sometimes. I'm not saying everybody's the same. I'm saying some people just have a bad day and are just in it for money, and some people really are in it for compassion and want to save your life. And if they've lived it, then they will give you that time. If they haven't, then they're just doing the, hi, how can I help you? So really, at the end of the day, you will find that some of those people on the end of the call can make you worse. But what safety plan do you have? Okay? What safety plan do you actually have when you're having these panic and anxiety attacks? When you're feeling crappy? This is a whole program of anxiety, and it's called Change the Record. Okay? And it's called Tackling the Underlying Issues of Depression. But this whole program, I read that, a whole program to tackle depression and anxiety. I even had someone come in to demonstrate how anxiety affected them. I mean, we all have our own ways of dealing with it or affecting us, but describing it. I had people come in to describe their level of anxiety and where it came from. So this is a workshop. So if you want to know and would like to sign up for these workshops, please get in contact with me. Go to WhatsApp and send the text to 0777 060 1567. Even though this broadcast stops, you can rewind it and get the number back. So this workshop, it's actually, you know what the thing is about it? Probably about a 2-hour workshop for the first one, because there are other stages to developing and changing your mental health thought process. The mental health is the word, but the thought process is your behaviour, and it's the behaviour that we've got to look at, even down to taking medication. What are you doing it for? Why? Can we change the outcome? Well, surely you want to be successful, and business owners and entrepreneurs. Please don't look. I'm just a simple woman that was brought up in a council estate. Yeah, loved that kind of vibe in the people in it, and it was real survival. Okay, I didn't go to a posh school. In fact, I had lack of education because of the problems that I had within my life, and so therefore education. Oh my God, I got kicked out before the last day. You know, education wasn't really there for me. I missed so much school. I missed so much school because I mentally wasn't in it. And again, school again was impacted on my life, because when you wanted to be like somebody else, the school limited you and put you in a dunce class. And I use the word dunce, undergraduated class, undergraduated, because you know they did in the 70s put you in these kind of classes, which then stifled your growth. We were and also made you feel indifferent. We weren't allowed to do typewriting courses, so we weren't this. A lot of people, depending on where they come from, were deprived, literally in education, deprived, and we didn't even know that. But when you look back at it, if you were born in those 70s and you were going to school in the 80s, okay, see if you were deprived when they were doing French. I wasn't allowed to do French. Why? You never even asked me. You didn't even try me, because it was just a tick box, wasn't it? Wasn't even allowed to do computers, so you weren't even allowed to have the secretary jobs or those post jobs. So really, school, it started from school depriving you from your education, making you feel different, certainly standing out for being different. You're stupid, and you get picked on, don't you, at school? But this Change in the Record workshop will tackle appreciation of life, waiting for others to change circumstances and what's yours, the expectations of others. Plan of action. This gives you a plan of action. And why should people follow you if it leads to depression? Think about that. Okay? Are they walking on eggshells around you? See, we all have an active part to play with one another and helping one another up. But this, without giving away too much, if you would like to be involved in those workshops to learn a little bit more about tackling the underlying issues of depression and replacing some of this negative behavior, this negative thought process, and the old coping strategies and the old remedies. There is a lot out there now that there wasn't before. It is at your fingertips. And if you're wanting someone to show you the way, I, Kerry Mussington, is going to show you the way. If you want my hand is here. And again, the change starts with you. If you are one of those that are sitting there doing the same rhetoric day in, day out, and suffering from depression, and you really do want that change, you really do. You really want to understand life, but perhaps you want to understand your relationships and things like that. Perhaps you want to understand why is it that people don't stay around, or you keep picking the same people, but they're not picking you. Sorry, you're not choosing them necessarily, they're choosing you. Okay, and sometimes that in that them choosing you and getting that option to choose you, that can be your very weakness. And this is where some people are very guarded and keeping themselves to the self and isolating themselves, which again is a self-punishment. It becomes a self-punishment because you're not enabling yourself to explore the world and know what love is. We all have different ways of loving, but we have to find the right love language. And in the right love languages, we all speak different codes for different reasons, for different seasons, for the things that we've gone through. Hey, dog snoring. So be mindful about your medication. Do attend back to your GP to talk about your medication, although those visits for the GP are not really there now. So, and if you are a person that don't trust yourself on medication, and I have to say this is one of the things and the good things that I've done for myself, is I was honest with my GP. I told my GP that I'm worried about the medication. It's tempting in my state of depression. And so what my GP done was put a limit on it, on how many I could get, and it would only be given to me by the pharmacist. And I was never allowed to have more than what wouldn't hurt you. And I know all too well when I'm listening to people how they try to commit suicide, how they store their medication. If you know your friends are storing their medication, remove it. Confront them with it. Especially if you know that they've got depression. Especially if you know that they suffer with suicide ideation. What is that word? thoughts, frequent thoughts. And they might suffer with that if they're faced with a bad situation, and that situation can be resolved. Suicide is not the answer. It isn't. I know that now. And if you know that you will be to blame for somebody else's suicide by doing that, in a sense, you are. You are. Anyone that tries to try and do that leaves a ripple effect to somebody else that may do it as well, because they can't cope with the loss of you. The loss of you. They will then feel abandoned and rejected and everything that you're feeling. And earlier today, I spoke to a lovely person who wrote a book, One Small Step at a Time. One step at a time. Listen to where some people come from. When you hear the word, I come from a loving relationship, I come from a loving family, versus somebody that says I come from a family that was, well, all over the place. So then you have to figure out why somebody who came from a loving family wanted to end their life, thought about ending their life. And so when you hear stories like that, there's a bigger issue. And it's facing the fear. Your past can't hurt you anymore, but your future's there to change you, and it can change you. It can change everything about, it can change all your yesterdays and let it be just a memory. I mean, all of this in the background here, I'm not ashamed. Google it. Kerry Mussington makes a newspaper, the Sun newspaper. I'm absolutely over the moon that I made the newspaper in that mannerism, because now here I am back today to tell you that was my state of depression. That's because I had a bad situation. That's because people were bullying me. That's because the people in authorities were doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and breaching my data and all of those things. That's because they didn't want to give me a chance, and that's because they wanted to throw me on the streets. All of those things are bound to mess up your state of mind and not give you that stability, because you're looking for a future. And so when people says no, and you're knocking, say please help me, your future is stuck, because until you resolve that problem, then your future is stuck, depending on what the circumstances that you're in. So if it's a housing problem, then sometimes you are stuck, unable to move forward mentally and emotionally until you resolve that housing problem. But if you're on a waiting list for a housing and you're moving on, that's a foot in the door, and it's a success. And therefore, what you do with your days whilst you're waiting for, particularly there's a lot of housing people in B&Bs and stuff. Housing homelessness doesn't mean street homelessness. It can mean sitting in a B&B somewhere, or temporary accommodation somewhere, even in a caravan somewhere, temporary accommodations. And those things can bugger up people because they haven't got the full stability. Every time I walk past a house, I remember the time that I used to be on the outside looking in, thinking, why don't I deserve a house? Why don't I deserve a home? Why do I have to be out here in the cold? And that is the most strangest feeling ever in my 40s, to feel like that, when I've always had a home from the age of 18, And so change has to come from you. You have to look at the bigger picture of life. And it doesn't mean that, when they give you the diagnosis, unfortunately, you can challenge the diagnosis, but it's very rarely that they will undo that, because that's the time that you took a complaint to them and an issue to them. So unfortunately, you don't be too honed in on the label, I have EUPD and I must take medication for it every 5 minutes. You're not treating that label. You're treating the problem that you've got. So be mindful of the labels that you're giving and what you're treating. You're not treating. See the label emotionally disorder, the personality disorder came from child abuse, sexual abuse, These are the things that I put down on my sheet of paper. When you get your notes, they write all about you. And I could go get one right now, but it's over there. That means leaving this. I could go and get one. But they write all about you. And what they do is they write your history. And in that history, it says, parents were this, parents were that. She didn't get on. She had domestic violence. She had this, blah, 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 blah. But here's a tablet. You're not treating EUPD. That's a summary of everything that you've gone through. But it shows that you have a behaviour problem also. And it's that behaviour problem that if we don't implement change, then we'll keep to the same behaviour problem. And your diagnosis will be politically correct. So if you don't want to be your label for your entire life because it's bogging you down, change the label. So you know what? I have a label, but I'm going to go out there and teach people that they don't have to be their label. They can find some enjoyment within the day. When I put this device down and I close it, I'm going back to my normal life. I am living normal life right now. I'm just talking, but I know I'm doing some good to somebody. Some people will disagree with the things I'm saying, and some people will agree with the things I'm saying. But again, do you speak my language? And did you have a bit of my sandwich? It was a bit of a song there. But do you speak my language? You know? Meaning, have you done and gone through exactly the same things that I have? Or have you been there? See, the most things that I do when I'm talking to somebody, especially in a health profession, have you been there? Have you a lived experience? Did you try and take your life? The minute they say no, when they tell me no, then they're not on the same wavelength, then are they? They couldn't comprehend. If they say I thought about it, then but they didn't do it, then they're on a different love language. This is what I'm saying. We're all on different love languages. Those that have never thought about it, those that might have thought about it, and those that have actually tried to bloody do it and still here to live to tell the tale. And then you've got those that have actually taken their life, and then they leave the mothers or the parents behind and the families behind, very depressed, no answers, and then suddenly your loved ones that are losing these people, just remember that those that are, you have an active duty of care to help people up, okay? So you just remember that suddenly that people are losing their loved ones, then maybe perhaps they're going to the GP, telling the GP that they're depressed, you know, and then here we go with the cycle of depression again, and we're masking it all rather than facing it head on and appreciating the value of the life and the lessons out of the life. I say if people are removed from your life, say thank you. Say thank you. Because if they're removed from your life, just say thank you for a minute. Oh, that came out wrong, didn't it? I'm talking about those people that have formed friends, and then the friend no longer is giving them 100%. If somebody's coming away from out of your life a little bit and you found it, it's you're the one that keeps reaching out and they're not applying, calling you back, etc. else, if it's bothering you and stuff like that, then sometimes you do have to let things go. There are plenty of other friends out there. There is plenty of other associates out there, or plenty of other people that you can meet and have an interaction with, and you don't know what you're going to have in common with them. So it's finding things in common with someone. But let that be a good common ground to moving forward from the past and replacing the old techniques for something new. So take creative arts, build something, make something from home, something you think, oh, somebody else would like to do this. And if I send out a little package and a little kit, they can make it too, or we're on a one-to-one Zoom or something like that. Or did you know that you can call each other on Messenger as well? And it's got a video. Did you know you can share a screen in Messenger and you can actually watch a movie at the same time in Messenger, Facebook Messenger? So there are ways of connecting with people. And unfortunately, I know that people are in love lives, they have love lives. Don't forget your friends. Don't forget your friends. Friends will, your partners will, they always say men come and go or women come and go, but your friends are supposed to be there forever. Don't forget your friends. When you find your bit of happiness, don't forget those. Try and take people with you as opposed to leaving them. Okay? And this is what I'm trying to do under the project is to tell people, speaking out saves lives. Here, look at this, I love this. Speaking out saves lives, support saves so much more. And even on the back here, I'm telling people of the awareness of the behaviors that may be in your friends and family, and you might be surrounded by them, even you. So even in you, the signs of depression and the behaviors, the appearance, maybe somebody is not, they're looking disheveled, and maybe they're not dressed, getting themselves dressed anymore. Maybe they're stuck in their onesie all day. That's, if they're doing that every day, then perhaps they're not getting that lovely bath that they need, etc. And I know a lot of people won't take a bath during depression because they feel they've got no one to impress. That's why people take that stance. My mum always said, be prepared, you never know when the Queen's going to knock. And always change your knickers because you never know if you got run over. And, she used to say those things to me, and I used to take it off as a joke, yeah, whatever. But to be honest, you never know. You never know, who may surprise you. And then what happens is, he goes, hey, darling, I thought I'd just pop in and pay you a visit. Then all of a sudden, you that didn't expect that visit, you're going to get your barrier up. Or because this happens to me, all right? I get my barrier up because I hate unannounced visits. I do not want unannounced visits because it sends me, you're invading my personal space. And then sometimes I think to myself, look, all the things that we complain about, I never get a surprise visit, but yet because we react, we send off you're unapproachable next time with ease. So people then have to start diarying you in. And I hate that because we used to be spontaneous with each other. Now it's, are you free next week? Well, no, I might be dead next week. Why don't you talk to me now? Could you not spare 10 minutes out of your day or an hour out of your day? I mean, there are 24 hours in a day. And then people say, yeah, well, I just got home from work and I'm exhausted. So what that means then is those people that have just come home from work was that's all they're doing then, work. All work and no play. Even they are preventing themselves from having a normal conversation. And I find that a lot with people. All work and no play. And that's where people are finding it very isolating. For me, I love my work because it is play, because I am talking to people. And I think that's helped me because it is behind closed doors. Of course it is. I use, speaking to someone face to face, well, you're in their presence. It's a little bit more difficult, isn't it? And when I used to do the workshops, each week on face to face, I got nervous. I got very nervous. It's not as if I could walk out of that situation and put the telephone down. So it made me go forward and plan. And when I got the feedback from my workshops that they were working, it made people at least see a different side to mental health like never before, because mental health isn't broken down the way we'd like it to be broken down. And it's not unless you get somebody with a lived experience to tell you, hey, this is what I went through, this is what I did to change the outcome, this is what I will no longer do, and this is what I will put out to other people, that we play a part in one another's lives. So to lessen the suicide, I have to tell you that you can prevent it. It is preventable. But you have to get up and you have to listen and you have to implement change. And that's those ones that actually don't even suffer with depression. You too have to implement change. For sometimes those that don't suffer with depression can be part of the problem to ignoring what is going on around them, within their family, within their homes, with their friends. And sometimes you might not be able to change someone's circumstances at all, but you should be able to give them a solution and what they can do to implement something good to carry on. I've got mothers out there that haven't got their children, are in a state of depression, and even fathers in a state of depression, longing for their children, and in the meantime, popping a pill is the answer. No, sweethearts. You need to be prepared for when your children come back, they're going to want answers. And if you are where you left them off, where you left off, and you haven't changed the outcome, I think you might do more damage. So be prepared for your children when they come back. If they're in care homes or wherever they are, be prepared to make sure that you've got your act together. That's the least you can do. That's the least you can do. If we're going to break the cycle, we have to do this together and look at everything, pattern, the behaviours, life. Who are we going to save from depression? Who are we going to save from suicide? You can't save anyone from suicide if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not willing to give someone a conversation. So you'll be surprised that some people, and I wrote this down actually, you'd be absolutely surprised that some people can go on normal and look normal, but deep down, with inside, they're planning and plotting. So if they give away anything, any possessions, animals or things like that, think twice. Think twice. Why are they giving away something? Think twice. Because, especially if it's something they love and they're giving it away, think twice. Look at that pattern and be mindful and check on them. Again, signs of depression, appearance, lifestyle, things change. Of course, it has in COVID, hasn't it? So therefore, you are unable to check on your friends the way you used to. So perhaps pick up the phone and check that way. Don't just do a telephone call, by the way, or don't do a text. Don't just do a text. I like to see who I'm talking to, because when you visually see someone, it actually brings them in a little bit more, makes you feel a bit more warm. It's nothing worse than speaking to somebody on the phone, hearing them, you're painting a picture, but it's nice to see expressions, nice to see someone's face. Isolation. As I said, we are on lockdown, so the isolation is there. But we use the word isolation, but it doesn't mean you couldn't get out and go for a little brief walk to replace that, even if it's you, to replace that. Or, to replace the isolation is to pick up and make contact with somebody. Self-harm, that can come in many ways, as I said, and I do believe at the end of the day, it's not just drink, alcohol and drugs. It can be promiscuity, it can be overeating or undereating, it could be exercise, more exercise, not exercising, it could be plunging yourself into work, it could be depriving yourself of something, and it could be taking unnecessary meds because you think you need them. So I count that as an addiction. Okay. Communication very difficult sometimes, and again, that's because people feel abandoned, and that's because they feel that they've been betrayed, and that's because they feel that there's a lackluster approach for people to make the effort, so they give up talking. I know that one. Neglect comes from those that can't be bothered to check up on you anymore. They live in their own world and they forgot about you. Neglect comes from hearing something that someone's going through and not doing something about it, giving them any guidance to how they can resolve it, or even taking the search engine and looking yourself for an answer for their problem. You can become the citizens of ice yourself. Okay? Desperate. And some people can be so desperate for someone to listen and then get to the point where they feel completely hopeless and then go and do something about it. That's desperate measures. Desperate means also to the point where maybe they're robbing or committing crime or doing criminal activity because they're trying to feed a habit or some issue. Angry. The anger comes in at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for lots and lots of people. Anger. Now, the anger part is the part that's going to trigger and spiral more events. And it is that anger, and let's put in the word ego with that. It is that anger and that ego that you will battle with daily. It's a test of you, nobody else, you. What direction are you going to do to change whoever's making you angry or whatever situation is making you angry? Because based upon that anger, then other issues come in. The panic, the fear, the anxiety, the habits of perhaps, gotta get coffee, gotta have a fag, all of those things like that, because you're trying to manage it, right? But if you slip your anger and you are foul-mouthed and you are criticizing and belittling someone, then you do the ripple effect again and you are making somebody else feel poorly too, because it's all about self-esteem, building up self-esteem. Guilty. Oh my gosh, guilt. I felt guilty so many times for even saying, no, I can't help you. No, not today. I'll speak to you tomorrow. But even though I know I'll speak to them tomorrow, the guilt could set in and I feel quite bad. But at the same time, I then pep talk myself, boundaries, time, my limit, my time. And I think a lot of people do that as well. And you don't know what's going on in their own lives for them to put those boundaries up. So yeah, sometimes scheduling in when you can have some me time with your friends or associates could be important. I hate appointments, but nowadays people are trying to make a difference within the community and doing something for themselves. They will say, oh, this is the only time I've got. Okay, okay, let's meet in the middle somewhere along the line. Can you do evening call? Can you do a morning call? Can you do an afternoon call? Because if you keep putting people on appointments all the time, then I'm sorry, they become part of your job description. Make an appointment. That is not the way of the world, is it, anymore? Well, that's where it's becoming. But the days where we used to just pick up the telephone call, all right, how's it going? Sorry, I'm just in the middle of my dinner. All right, I'll call you back. And some people forget not to. I know that I could be in the middle of my dinner. I can eat and talk. Yeah, it's all right. You don't need to see my face, but I can eat and talk. Or depending on if it's a really, really nice meal, I want to sit down there and that. There really is nothing wrong with saying, you know, could you just give me like 10 minutes and I'll call you back? Is that all right? You know, it's just offering a different solution of when someone can come together with you to have a conversation. Again, worthlessness. People can make you feel worthlessness, and you can do that to yourself if you don't implement change. Worthlessness. I felt worthless when people send me shitty texts. And they are of criticism, and they are of, you don't deserve to be where you are, no one likes you. Now, that's a weapon. Know this. People use that word as, no one likes you, everyone's against you, everyone thinks you're wrong, and then you put that on you, and don't try and own those words. Don't ever own those words when people are telling you about you. Don't own those words. That is one person's perception because they have a disgruntlement with something and they're not willing to sit down and talk with you. Darling, believe me, if anybody sits there and sends you crappy messages about how you are and calls you names and uses that phrase that nobody likes you, tell them what to do. Tell them to do one. And when you shut the door, know that. Don't feel guilty about shutting the door on somebody that's just criticized you and try to knock down your self-esteem. And when you shut that door, yes, the guilt will come in. What you're guilty, let's replace the word guilt. What you're sad about and disappointed about is that you had an expectation and you wish perhaps they weren't so bitter, because you feel sorry for their behavior more than anything. I do, because I think when someone's acting in a mannerism where you could read something out that they've writ. Actually, you could really belittle people with something that they've writ, couldn't you? Look, what Sally's just writ me. Sally's just writ me. You are this and you are that and that. And you could really out it, couldn't you? And again, that becomes ego. Somebody to tell, or disappointment. I need to get them back. Revenge. So anger, ego, revenge. Sometimes they can go hand in hand. And it's the revenge that you mustn't have. You mustn't do revenge in that way. I'm going to get them back. If you want to teach a lesson, do what I do. This is the way I'm teaching the lesson, talking about the do's and the don'ts, as opposed to naming people. Worthlessness, worthless. When people won't let you achieve, they're trying to stop you achieving. Well, that's one person. Take another direction, get another job, or look for a different idea of creating your own job, perhaps. Creating your own vision, your own dream, where you don't have to answer to people all the time, or you're under people. Try to be at the same level rather than under people, because that's where you belittle yourself. Own it. Own it. You came into this world alone. You're going to go out alone. Who you share your time with, though, and that is a reward for anyone that shares time with you. Should be a reward, vice versa. It's an opportunity. And seizing those opportunities, who you spend time with, should be valued. So if your phone rings, somebody's calling you, they thought about you. I hope it's a great conversation that you have. Sad, lonely, that comes into the isolation, lonely and not having anybody to speak to, no drive, no get up, no go, nothing to do. Sad. Well, if you've got nothing to do and you've got no drive and no direction, and the outcomes always, and your tomorrows look like your todays, then, you're going to pretty much be sad, lonely, worthless, feeling hopeless, and then feeling helpless. In actual fact, you can help yourself and change it today. So, and that is applying action and getting your tools, especially those that are free work classes, education. There's enough on there, and if it's one small step, to change. So I've given you a lot of information of the do's and don'ts here today. You can seek advice, but read what you are putting in your body, and perhaps seeking a different alternative and a real approach to healing. And perhaps you might even have to address your diet to get guidance around the right food and nutrition, because healthy eating, that also plays a big part on your mental health and your body. Because if your body is weak, and then your mind is going to be weaker. So eating healthy is important, the right foods, the right balance, and drink plenty of water. If you're noticing that you've got swollen feet, love, or you've got headaches all the while, are you drinking enough water? So, and if you tell me you don't like it, find another option, because the damage that you would do with not drinking enough water, and I can feel this, especially as you're getting older, the damage you do for dehydration isn't pleasant. It shuts down a lot of stuff, causes a lot of problems. So try and drink water. Don't think coffee is going to be the answer, and because it's got water in it. No, because the coffee is then another addiction. Okay, so you have to look at that as well, because you load through that every 5 minutes, and it actually does damage. So they say try decaf, try this, try that. Coffee's coffee. How much you drink of it? How much you drink of tea? Can you do pure tea? Can you do a lemon tea instead? Flavored teas instead. You want more natural products than you want than the crappy products that they have out on display. I think the problem with people, they take the easy route. They have a microwave and they go and get plastic food. Can you imagine buying rice that is in a plastic container? It's already been cooked, but it's squashed down into a plastic packet, and you're going to eat that. When they tell you that when you cook rice, that rice is only supposed to last 3 days, so what chemical are they putting in it to last that long? And rice is one of the most dangerous things that you could possibly play about with. But I've been cooking rice since I was a young gal, watching how rice is being cooked. And a lot of people don't know how to make rice. I was actually going to do a demonstration about the rice as well. You can make rice, or learn to make rice, and try brown rice as well in a rice cooker. You can buy those now. Got the instruction on it. But the problem with rice is that people don't wash their rice. And even if you buy boil in a bag, If you can see all the, when you boil it in a bag, you're going to see all this white stuff on it. Starch, not good for your body. Even if it's boiled in a bag, you still got to wash the rice. Your rice is not washed, and my mother once taught me this as well. And my mum was white, you know. Trust me, she was learning some culture, yeah? Okay? And my mother would say to me, wash your rice because rats run over your rice. They're in the fields. They've done this, that, and the other. Yes, it's hard. It's granules. Same as wheat, granules. But you must wash your products. And you must wash that rice because the starch is terrible. And then when you think about it, eat too much, diabetes. So one problem can lead to another, and especially with the medication can change everything up within your body anyway. So you need to be very careful with everything. Now, I'm Kerry Bussington. Thanks for listening. And take care. How do I stop that? There we go. So if you want any questions, you want anything answered, don't hesitate to get in contact with me. And if you are interested in coming to Change the Record workshop to help you with your mental health, anxiety and depression, then please do get in touch with myself. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.